Hi friends, Denise from Salvaged Inspirations, and welcome back to my furniture painting DIY channel. If you have an old dresser that has those dated carvings or dated kind of like framing on the drawers, don't throw it away, because today I'm sharing how to turn those dated carvings into a smooth, flawless, modern finish. And I can't wait to share how I do it. It's easy. If I can do it, you can do it. Just let me get set up and I'll be right back. Let's start. Here's the fun part. Here's the dresser that Mara had gifted me. She had planned on refinishing it, but like many of us, she has different projects taking priority. So I felt very thankful for this gift the entire time I worked on it. It's a really, really cute piece. The only thing that I wasn't overly fond of were these dated carvings, drawer detailing. So I am going to share my favorite way of smoothing this out and giving it a flawless finish. I started by removing all the drawer hardware, and there were two little knobs and two handles. And actually they're quite unique and cute. So I've kept them for a different project. When all the hardware was all removed, it was time to give this dresser inside and out a really good cleaning. After the dresser was clean and 100% dry, it was time to mix up some Bondo. As I mentioned, an easy way to update an older dated dresser is by filling in the dated engraved details on the drawers. And my favorite product to do this with is Bondo. Bondo fills these grooves because they're often fairly deep and wide, and Bondo dries super hard and durable. Whereas if you were to use a regular wood filler to fill the entire gap here, it would require several applications to get a smooth finish. So Bondo's perfect for larger repairs, and it dries really quickly. I added a little too much hardener to the Bondo mix, and it dried really quickly. So I'll show you what that looks like in a moment. But depending on how much hardener you add to the Bondo putty will depend on how fast it dries. The marvelous thing about Bondo is it dries super fast and is ready to sand within 15 to 30 minutes. The downfall about using Bondo is that it dries super fast and you have to work quickly with it. Using a plastic putty knife, I just went in there and started putting the Bondo into these grooves and smoothing it out the best I could. After only about 3 or 4 minutes of using the Bondo to fill in these grooves, it started to thicken up. And here you can see that it's not quite as easy to spread, and it's already starting to look a little lumpy. And then it just dries and hardens up, and you end up with a lumpy mess that's not workable at all. And here's what the Bondo looks like as it's drying in these grooves. And you will notice that it is not 100% perfect. But I have a quick and easy way to make it seamless, and I'll share that right now with you. What I do is I use a wood filler that's very soft and easy to sand, and I apply it over the Bondo to fill in all the little nicks and little places that might have been missed, if there's any little bubbles. And this Dixie Belle mud is super easy to sand and a super soft wood filler. So I find it ideal. You could use any wood filler to top this off, to top the Bondo off, but this one is exceptional in my opinion. I like using this wood filler even before I sand the Bondo down because it just saves me a step of sanding actually. But if you prefer, you can sand the Bondo down nice and smooth and then go ahead and apply the wood filler on top just in the areas where you see there might need a little bit of touching up. This could save you some product for sure. But I have a good few jars of this Dixie Belle mud. I'm not really worried about saving the product. I'm just worried about getting the seamless finish. So I go over the entire thing. And here's what it looks like with the Bondo on the first pass and the wood fill on the second pass. It is not a pretty sight, but just you wait and see how great it looks when it's all sanded down. The next morning, I scuff sanded the body and the drawers smooth using a 100 grit sandpaper and my Bosch Sander. This totally smoothed out the Bondo and Dixie Belle mud fill, so it smoothed that perfectly. And it also scuff sanded the rest of the dresser, getting ready for primer. I also like to give it a once over with my hands to make sure it feels perfectly smooth to the touch. And here's a close-up of how it looks after it's filled. You'll see that the Bondo is a different color than the white wood fill, but you see all those little specks of white is where it filled in all the little nooks and crannies and little details that needed filling, and it really does a good job when you use both. I went ahead and hand sanded the legs on this piece. Gave it a once over with a tap cloth just to remove all the dust. And then I opened up my BIN Shellac base primer to give this dresser 2 coats of priming. Now the primer is very, very important because if you don't prime over that Bondo and wood fill and just go ahead and paint, it's going to absorb the paint differently, and you're going to see those lines very clearly because the paint will end up being slightly darker than the rest of the dresser. So priming and covering that Bondo and the wood fill is extremely important. I've been using Bonding Boss, which is a water-based alternative to a bonding and stain blocking primer, and it works excellent. It is awesome. If you don't want to worry about the smell of the BIN Shellac based primer, Bonding Boss is a great alternative. However, the caveat to that is you have to wait 24 hours for it to do its thing. And this past Thursday was Furniture Fixer Upper Day, so I was on a deadline, and the bin, you can prime, put in 2 coats within an hour, and it can be sanded and ready for paint within 45 minutes. So there is a big time difference. I applied 2 coats, giving it a very light sanding to knock down anything in between the 2 coats as well with the 220 sanding pad. Then I went ahead and repeated the exact same process on the drawers. Okay, now for the fun part. I picked one of my favorite colors called Dried Sage. And this is a gorgeous beigey green, but it's very subtle and muted. So I actually look upon it as a neutral. It would go in any decor. It's just gorgeous. So I went ahead and cracked that open and started painting this dresser. And here's how I like to get a spray finish without using a sprayer. So any of you that don't have a sprayer on hand, but you want a really super smooth spray-like finish, here's how to do it. I apply the paint using a paintbrush. In this case, I was using my 2-inch oval. I spread it on, and then immediately right after I lay the paint down, I take a foam roller and I lightly roll over the wet paint. I do this with a very light hand. It's not like I'm applying much pressure at all, and it just smooths out the paint and the brush strokes beautifully. I have a full video on this paint technique, which I'll include in the cards above and also in the description down below. I went ahead and repeated the exact same process on all the drawers and the rest of this dresser. And as I'm painting over this primer, can you see any of those groove details? I can't. I was so pleased. I was really, really pleased with the outcome. And again, after I laid down the paint with the paintbrush, I took that foam roller and I rolled over it very lightly just to smooth out everything. Doesn't it look awesome? I can't wait to hear what you think about this paint finish after you see the end result. Once I had painted the drawers, it was time to paint the body of the dresser. And I went ahead doing the exact same technique. I would lay down the paint with my oval paintbrush. And once I had the paint on and it was still wet, I took that foam brush and smoothed it all out. It's really fun, actually, and if you don't want to make the investment for a paint sprayer, it works awesome. I will say, to get the best finish, you do want to work quickly, though. You don't want to lay down the paint, let it half dry, and then go in with the roller. So, yeah, my suggestion would be to work as quickly as you can by laying down the paint with the brush and then going right in there with that roller. I also painted the legs of this dresser in dried sage, and what I find super easy is just to take a scrap board and drill 4 holes in it. This way you can paint the little legs and then stick them into that little hole and nothing is touching them, so they dry beautifully. You'll also see how easy it is to top coat them as well. For a durable top coat for this dried sage chalk mineral paint, I decided to spray Gator hide. It's water resistant, it's super durable. It's what I've used on my kitchen table and it's been years and it's holding up amazing. And I went ahead and I sprayed 3 coats of Gator hide, allowing about 2 hours in between each coat for dry time. I like to give my top coat a little tiny sanding, a really light once over with a 300 grit sandpaper. You can even go up to 400 if you want in between your coats of top coat. However, it's not needed. This stuff lays really, really nicely. So that's totally up to you. But giving it a little sanding in between and then using a tap cloth to pick up any dust. And then, of course, your last coat, whether that's coat number 2 or coat number 3 in my case, you just leave it be. And this gives a beautiful finish. For the finishing touches, I added these brushed brass handles, modern handles. And just as a reminder, here's the before. The dresser that Mara gifted me. Thank you, Mara. And here is the after. And I absolutely love this new modern look. I think this color is spectacular. I love the handles. I love the finish. I love everything about it. And it just goes to show that, you know what, a one color simple finish can have a huge impact. And if you ever come across any of those dressers that have those dated drawer details on them, just remember they can be filled and it's quite easy to do. It's very easy to, if I can do it, you can do it. So let me know what you think of this modern finished dresser in the comments down below. I always love hearing from you. Also feel free to like and subscribe here on YouTube, and you can also find me over at salvagedinspirations.com, where I have over 500 furniture painting tutorials teaching you how to make your furniture beautiful. Until next time, have a fabulous week. Bye guys.